Before we start, anyone else have their OCD triggered because Quiet doesn't have a D at the beginning of their name like all the other buddies? The D obviously stands for Diamond, but still, you have D Dog, D Horse, D Walker, then it's just Quiet. I mean, they could have given her the code name D Cup? No, no, oh God. I'm sorry, that's awful. I'm cutting that. That's gone. How's it going, folks? The final buddy we'll be looking into is, unfortunately, the only human companion, Quiet. We meet Quiet at the very beginning of the game while we're still waking up from our 9-year coma. She takes,
She took the short way down.
yeah, I guess you could say that, but she later reappears in the Arbe Shifat ruins as a boss fight. Upon defeat, she can either be taken back to Mother Base as a prisoner, or you could, well, uh, you could just kill her. And while killing her would, understandably, be the only reasonable action for Snake to take at that point, you'd only be locking yourself out of experiencing the most interesting character this game has. Returning to Mother Base with Quiet alive sets her dealings with Diamond Dogs into motion, and allows her to tag along with you on missions as a very useful buddy. Now, it's obvious to anyone with a working set of eyes that Quiet's wardrobe choices are quite risque. But I'm not interested in talking about that nonsense here. I mean, I will say that if you're having trouble getting past how she looks, you're probably just as sexist as you're making those evil straight white males out to be. Food for thought. Anyway, what I'm here to talk about now are her abilities in the field as a buddy. So let's get started. 1. Her scouting abilities. According to her profile on the staff management screen, Quiet has the unique skill Vanguard Sharpshooter. So, what does that mean? Well, according to Wikipedia, a Vanguard, also known as the Advance Guard, is the leading part of an advancing military formation. It has a number of functions, including seeking out the enemy and securing ground in advance of the main force. Simply put, the Vanguard are the lads that show up to the fight before the even bigger lads get there. So, does that describe Quiet? Yeah, it really does. When you issue the Scout command to Quiet from the iDroid, she infiltrates the selected outpost to tag vehicles, weapon installations, and, most importantly, guards. But she'll only tag the things she sees. Enemies in buildings, for example, will not be marked, so her scouting skills can be a little hit and miss. But she can scout out outposts as far as 500 meters away of Snake's position, sometimes even 1,000, depending on the enemy's alert level. Any more than this, though, and she won't mark anything. I think this is more to do with the limitations of the Fox engine, though, rather than an inherent limitation of Quiet. As you get closer to the base, the world and its assets load in, and then become available for her to mark. So technically, Quiet has the greatest detection range of all the buddies. The trade-off, of course, is, while she's doing recon, she can't be covering you. Having her scout out major bases and settlements will also sometimes net you a care package marked on the map by a hexagon. I call them care packages, but it's probably more accurate to call them caches. The caches will stock up your ammo reserves and suppressors. Quiet usually leaves them on a vantage point just outside the location she's infiltrated. It's abilities like this that fit the Vanguard portion of a title to a T. Quiet can literally set the stage for the player long before the player even arrives, gathering precious intel and ensuring you are well stocked to take on a new base. Of course, that was only half of her title. What was the other half again? Oh yeah, Sharpshooter. 2. Her offensive abilities. To say Quiet's a pretty good shot is a massive understatement, and there are a few ways she can apply her skills in the field. First off, her firing positions, or sniping points as they're called, literally cover both Afghanistan and Africa, so much so that each and every enemy location has at least 2 or 3 sniping points for Quiet to use, meaning wherever you may be, whichever direction you may be travelling, it's guaranteed that Quiet will be of some tactical value. By using the attack order on the iDroid, she can be ordered to move to specific vantage spots. This detail sets her apart from the other buddies. She doesn't necessarily follow you around on foot. When in position and she has a clear shot on an enemy and is ready to take it, she will signal this by humming her now iconic theme. It sounds like this. It's a bit annoying after hearing that for the 100th time, but whatever. I've noticed when in a firing position, Quiet will tend to aim at whatever is in the centre of the normal third-person camera, probably so she ends up targeting the guards that are ahead of you, but you can manually designate targets by looking at an enemy through the binoculars or through a scope. Keep in mind that her effective range for targeting is around 270 metres from her position. If you are spotted by a guard in this 270 metre radius and Quiet has a clear shot on him, she will take him out before an alert can be raised. This even works without reflex mode active. It's also worth remembering that Quiet will need to reload after every 5 shots, regardless of whatever rifle she is using. There's always a slight delay between issuing an order and Quiet executing it, but her reload can make that delay slightly longer, although it's not a major factor, but the extra second or so can make the difference in certain situations. The fire order will have Quiet fire a single shot at an enemy. It seems like a basic order, but it's all in how you use it. It could just be a simple firing order for helping in infiltrations and breaking enemy lines, but it could also be the ace in the hole you need when you're hauling out a POW, and a pesky guard is in the wrong place at the wrong time. This order is only available when Quiet is either humming, or if you're currently designating a target for her. The next command is the grenade ricochet maneuver, and is only available with a thrown weapon equipped. It can be used in a couple of different ways. Firstly, and most obviously, it can be used to make a throw more accurate. Quiet will bounce what you throw towards the nearest enemy, making it possible to hit enemies around corners or in cover. Secondly, it can be used to extend the arc in which the grenade travels, making it possible to hit targets usually out of reach. This skill can also be used to trigger the explosive sooner, usually when it makes contact with a target. The only thrown weapon Quiet won't ricochet is the decoy disc. Everything else is fair game, even empty magazines, if you can find a use for that. The take aim command essentially has Quiet lock onto an enemy. This can be one she picks herself, or one you choose for her. She will fire when Snake is either seen by that enemy, or when you issue the fire command, or when you next fire a weapon, meaning synchronized double headshots can be pulled off. What's interesting is, the shot you take doesn't even have to hit a target, it can be a loud warning shot for all it matters. A tactic I've used involved using a loud weapon to draw attention towards myself, while Quiet fired on the enemy with a silenced weapon. The beauty of this setup is, the guards are too busy engaging me to notice Quiet picking them off one by one. This sort of tactic works well with the cover me command as well. The cover me command is more of a mode you toggle though, really. It changes Quiet's rules of engagement, allowing her to go weapons free. It's a useful command to have and makes cleaning out bases an absolute doddle. While covering you, Quiet will fire on all guards in the area. She will even move between sniping points automatically to actively hunt down more targets. Quiet enters an aggressive mode similar to this when you enter an alert phase. During an alert, Quiet will fire on guards at will. If she shoots off a guard's helmet during this time, reflex mode will trigger, allowing you to quickly finish the kill. If she takes damage, she will relocate to another vantage spot. Usually, it's enemy snipers or mortars that get her, so taking these out beforehand will only make her more effective. This is probably why she marks things like weapon installations in her recon. It's more for her benefit than yours. I'm convinced that the cover me command and her alert phase behaviour puts her as the most destructive buddy in the entire game, and I mean that as a compliment. Maybe destructive isn't the right word. Independent, maybe? What I mean to say is, no other buddy takes such a proactive approach to missions. D-Dog and D-Horse are mostly support buddies who bring passive advantages like auto-marking and transportation to missions. D-Walker can take on enemies, but it's at your discretion, and even when ordered to engage, it won't help you in hunt down targets. It stands there and holds its ground. Quiet, on the other hand, does hunt down targets. She doesn't follow you because she's your equal. She's not your pawn, she's a companion. Best of all, she demonstrates her autonomy in gameplay as well as in the story, proving herself to be a truly powerful female video game character. With a great pair of 3. Her auxiliary abilities. As I've previously stated, Quiet operates by moving between vantage points rather than following you. Because of this, she is completely invisible, or rather undetectable to enemies. Well, until she starts engaging them at least. But even when she's moving from point to point in her usual unsubtle way, the enemies, they won't even notice. Quiet's loadout is just as freeform as the player's loadout, and can be changed around while out on a mission. Using change equipment under the buddy support option of the iDroid will bring up what rifles and outfits are currently available. I've found that rifles can be swapped around without Quiet needing to retreat temporarily, whereas choosing a new outfit will cause Quiet to falter herself for a quick wardrobe change. While we're on the subject, let's check out her equipment. Like D-Horse, there's not a lot to talk about really. Quiet's initial rifle is the Wicked Butterfly, which can be upgraded with a suppressor. It fires lethal rounds. Its sister rifle, the Guilty Butterfly, is exactly the same, but it fires tranq rounds instead. The great thing about the Guilty Butterfly is that even though it fires non-lethal rounds, it still has the firepower to remove helmets, something none of Snake's tranq rifles can do. Quiet's final rifle is the Sinful Butterfly. This beauty can put just about anyone down. It doesn't have a suppressor, but the payoff is enemies' helmets will no longer be a problem. Even the heavily armoured lads you see from time to time don't stand a chance. So those are Quiet's weapons. Her alternative outfits, on the other hand, have no utility at all. Well, they do have fan service going for them, if you count that as a utility. 4. Her drawbacks and weaknesses. While no one would disagree that Quiet is an amazing sniper, she doesn't seem to have a lot of common sense when it comes to enemies with headgear. Quiet will, more often than not, shoot the helmet off an enemy rather than the enemy's unprotected squishy face. It's not really that much of a deal breaker, and there are ways of getting around it, like completing dispatch missions to destroy enemy storage sheds, but it's just annoying that a sharpshooter as good as Quiet can't quite work out that helmet shots aren't always the way to go. Oddly enough, Quiet can trigger enemy mines while moving between sniping points, and while it never seems to bother her too much, it can cause the guards in the area to go on alert. While Quiet is covering you, she will target everything besides POWs and passive animals, so even hostile extraction targets are on her hit list, so it's better to have her stand down, or she may just blow the target's brains out before you even get a chance to Fulton them. Her tactical value drops drastically for side ops that take place in the wilderness. She'll still be able to deploy out there for fire support, but she won't be able to recon the area for you. The final complaint that I have isn't necessarily a problem with Quiet specifically, more how the game is designed. Believe it or not, Quiet will target hostile animals like wolves and jackals, and she'll treat them as if they were guards. But because animals only appear in the wilderness, far from any base, she barely has that opportunity. Back in Ground Zeroes, we saw attack dogs at Camp Omega. Of course, as soon as gameplay rolled round, they all mysteriously disappeared. Unfortunately, it's the same with the Phantom Pain, and it could have really done with some attack dogs of its own, just for the variety and enemy type if anything. But now I'm just going off topic. To conclude, Quiet is a versatile buddy, and it's a different kind of versatile to, say, D-Walker, for instance. In D-Walker's case, it had parts that could be swapped out to cover different situations, but the overall minute-to-minute use of D-Walker was the same. It was climb aboard and use a big daft weapon to deal with enemies. Quiet's versatility is a lot more general. When you think about it, the minute-to-minute gameplay of the Phantom Pain can be whittled down to 3 elements: scouting, sneaking, and fighting, and Quiet excels in all of these fields. She scouts enemy positions ahead of you, She is completely undetectable outside of an alert phase, meaning she's never a hindrance in a perfect stealth attempt. And when it comes to fighting, she's more than capable of acting independently of you to bring down the opposing side. Much like D-Dog, Quiet can follow you from conflict to conflict and fit any mission role you need support in. Of course, D-Dog lacks Quiet's offensive capabilities. I suppose the only mission role Quiet doesn't fill is transportation, so D-Horse fans can rest easy in that regard, I guess. That is, until Konami released the Quiet Piggyback DLC.